Abby, good to see you. Let's talk about the three biggest retirement expenses and how to control them. And you have to make sure these expenses are part of your financial plan or you run the risk of running out of money. First, though, you need a written income plan. The only way to combat the possibility of expenses exceeding assets is to have that written retirement income plan, which is why it's usually step number one for you and your clients.
Yes, it's always step number one. So
Yeah.
most of the time, people will bring in their statements and their social security statements and reports and things like that. But I can count probably on one hand how many times somebody has come in for our discovery meeting and they've actually had an income plan. So that's always where we start. We have to have some type of a guide or a map to figure out how we're going to pull from all of these different sources to meet your expense needs. So it's similar to like putting in a location on your GPS before you get in the car. You have to know where you're going. Otherwise, who knows where you're going to end up? And so that's really what the income plan is. It's a guideline, it's a map, it's a blueprint, if you will. And that is always number one. You have to know what your expenses are. My most successful, and when I say successful, I mean my happiest clients in retirement have a good handle on what they're spending. And I can't really do that for my clients. Sometimes I wish I could, but that's a mutual effort. We have to do that together.
Right. Right.
You have to be willing to take a look at all of your expenses, not only your fixed expenses, but all of those variable expenses that can sometimes get out of hand, because we have to have a bullseye. We have to know what's our goal here. How much income do we need to generate in retirement? And then we can extrapolate that, but we have to know what we're working with and what we need to work towards.
Right. And now let's get into those expenses. First, you have your largest known expense, that is taxes.
Yeah, it's nobody likes taxes. It's like the number one thing that people want to avoid is taxes, and we are luckily pretty good at that, obviously legally and ethically. And people come to us because if you look at these triangles, we have three. There's the right one, the blue one, which is the tax deferred. And that's where I would say 90 to 95% of people's net worth or their retirement savings is in this blue triangle, which means, yeah, great. You got a tax deduction when you put it in there. You didn't have to pay tax on that income. You deferred it, but that tax bill has been growing in that account along with your investments for decades, and you have to pay the piper eventually. The left-hand side is probably one of the least common accounts that people have, unfortunately. It's just a taxable brokerage account, whether it's individual or joint, a trust account. And this is basically after tax money. So this is what your savings account is, or your high yield savings account, hopefully, checking account. If you have like a stock account where you dabble
Yeah.
in the stock market, but it's not underneath an IRA or anything, that's going to be a taxable account. No tax benefits there, but the gains are taxed more favorably at capital gains rates, whether it's short term or long term. That's a whole nother topic for a different video. And then at the very top, the dark blue
Our
triangle is
favorite.
the tax free. Yes, all of our favorites. It's just how do we get as much money as possible into that triangle, because the IRS knows what they're doing. They're not going to make it easy and simple to just shove a bunch of money into a tax-free bucket. So you have to know what you're doing. You have to know how to fund those tax-free buckets so that it doesn't blow up your tax rate now, but protects you in the future. Because
Yeah.
believe it or not, like this chart shows, we're in a very low tax rate environment. And I know it never feels like it. I don't feel like it when I have to pay my taxes, but I remind myself, look at what happened in the 40s. I mean, the top bracket or the top effective rate on the very tip top of the income scale was 94% when World War II ended. 94%. And a lot of times I say that people don't believe me, but that's just a fact. In 1981, the top rate was 69.13%. And that's in the very top of the income scale. But we could certainly get at least, halfway back there in the next several years or so. I know that we just had some more tax reformations and tax bills come in. So now is a good time to do some tax planning to
Right.
redistribute between those three triangles.
And next, we have our largest potential expense, healthcare.
Yes, and this is a big question mark, and most people don't understand it because it's incredibly complicated.
Right.
So we've obviously got Medicare. If you're retiring early, though, you have to figure out what you're going to do until Medicare kicks in at 65. And if you don't plan properly, that expense can blow up your plans for early retirement. So that's the number one thing you have to think about. If you're 65 or older, you have to pick the right plan for you. You have to sign up properly. You have to do all of those things. You have to pick a supplemental plan because just Medicare alone isn't going to cover everything. And then on top of that, we have long-term care to think about. And the expenses are very scary to look at, but it's the reality. So if we look at the annual median cost for the United States in general, in 2023 for in-home care for homemaker services, it was almost $70,000. For a home health aide, which is more medical assistance, it was over $75,000 a year. In 2043, at the rate we're going, homemaker services will be almost $124,000 a year.
Right. Yeah.
Home health aide is going to be almost $140,000 a year. That's a very difficult expense to absorb. And a lot of times the way people handle this is they just don't think about it. They think that, and it's natural to not want to think about really tough stuff that you might not have a solution for. They think maybe it's not going to happen to me or my family's going to help. And I bet they will. I'm sure they're going to do everything that they can, but they might not be able to help as much as you need in the future. So it's really important to have some type of what I call a protection plan in place, some type of plan for if I'm self-funding, if that's the direction you go, what assets am I allocating to that? Because those cannot be used for other things. They cannot be used for generating income. They can't be used for a vacation. They have to be allocated aside. Or if you go the direction of doing some type of insurance, which one are you going to pick? At least some type of a plan in place, because this can blow up an otherwise excellent retirement plan simply by having a long-term care spending shock.
Right, right. And then last, we have the silent thief, inflation.
Yes, inflation, which has really come to the forefront in the past 5 years. Before that, people didn't even really give it much thought at all. It wasn't talked about very much because we had just been through a very long period where inflation was 2% or under. And you can see right here, this is an excellent chart. So in 2021, that's when on the right-hand side, that's when inflation obviously started really ticking up. And the effects of it became pretty easy to see, especially for people on a fixed income. Now, we haven't quite gotten to the levels of, well, according to certain numbers, we haven't quite gotten to the levels that we've been in the past, but there are certain areas like healthcare where it way surpasses what the core inflation number is. And what inflation does is it silently and very stealthily erodes your purchasing power over time. So if you started with $100,000 in income, 5 years ago, if your expenses are the exact same or your category of expenses are the exact same, you're going to need to generate a lot more than $100,000 just to keep your lifestyle the same. And that's not going to go away. Inflation is always going to be a thing. It's the thing really along with taxes that affects all of us. And something that I remember really stood out to me when I was earlier in my career, because I obviously knew about market risk, really everybody does. But when I learned that inflation can be more detrimental to a retirement plan than even market risk in some situations. And a lot of times the focus is really on market risk and downside protection and 100%. I mean, you have to have that as well. But inflation is this really stealthy thing that while your bank account or your investment accounts can be growing, your purchasing power just isn't there anymore. And then all of a sudden you can't maintain your lifestyle that you've grown accustomed to. And you have to cut back on the things that you want to cut back on. That's a really difficult place to be. So we have to plan for that. We have to make sure that you not only have income sources and assets, but they're growing at the correct rate. And you have income sources that can increase. We're maximizing those things for you so that you can keep up with inflation no matter what it is in the future.
Mhm. Exactly. And I think it becomes apparent, Abby, after talking this through, that if somebody has a retirement plan that doesn't include all of these expenses, that it's not really a financial plan, a holistic financial plan, which is what you specialize in. So if somebody wants to sit down with you to create that financial plan, get a written income plan, what's the best way to reach you?
Sure. So you can always give us a call at 678-442-0255. You can also visit our website at theretirementfamily.com. We have a lot of great resources on there. We have a ton of videos, we have calculators, articles, blogs, all kinds of things that might be helpful. You can also send us a message and let us know what's on your mind, what you would like to talk to one of our advisors about, and we'll set up a 15-minute what we call an introductory call, where we basically just get to know each other a little bit to see if we might be the right fit to go to the next step in our process, which is the discovery meeting. And that's where we get into the details and get to know each other a lot better. But it's no pressure. It's not salesy at all. We'll just see if we might be a good fit to continue the conversation.
Okay. Abby, thank you.
Thanks, Erin.